Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for some more Splinterlands content, and today I'm very excited to be talking about one of my new favorite cards. That's Grum Fireblade, and I'm going to be breaking down 10 cards that I've had great success using with Grum that are going to help you climb. First and foremost, if you've never played Splinterlands, check out the link down below. It's a really fun play-to-earn style card battler game. I'm adoring it, but let's get into Grum. So he's a very difficult legendary to use because he cost 11, and the first thing I'd recommend with Grum is don't be trying to get sneaky and be attacking their backline and doing all this other shenanigans. When you're playing with Grum, you really need to have characters who focus on helping him, and that's what we're going to talk about here. So he has two absolutely fantastic abilities. The first one is Bloodlust, which is typically an ability we only see in guild brawls. But this monster revels in the glory of combat, and pretty much what this means is every single time Grum gets a finishing kill on something, and they finish the kill, all their stats go up by 1. And another huge thing is, in the reverse speed rule set, -1 to speed, which is something I really wish they do and fix in the game, because we have characters that give off negative speed to the other team, but when they do the reverse rule set, those are completely useless. I wish they could just do it, flip it. And then also Void Armor, which means he's going to be great against magic. So, here we go. I want to give two honorable mention, two cards that I love to use with Grum, but are just not always going to be realistic because of how costly they are, and that is the Lava Launcher and the Flamesmith. The Flamesmith is very obvious. You put it in your backline, it's going to cost 7, and what it will do, since it goes off at 3 speed, and this is Grum's biggest issue, which we're going to talk about, he is at 1 speed. He's generally going to be the last person to attack, but we can fix that. And we can help him by having someone like the Flamesmith, who's hopefully going to get off that shot first and break any shield we have. But once again, it costs 7, and, it's going to be hard to have 18 invested into 2 cards. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about with all the cards that I'm going to show you is none of them are crazy expensive. These are all cards that you could probably buy for under $5, and we'll get in a little bit into that, and also cards that you can rent for very, very cheaply. Like this card, you can get a level 3 for 1/3 of a DEC a day. So you can make yourself a really solid deck around him for a relatively low cost. Now, moving on to the other pie in the sky one, the honorable mention that's going to be really hard to get to the table. It's the Lava Launcher. It is an absolutely spectacular backline. And the bigger reason why is it's going to shoot at 3, and it's going to do 3 damage, which hopefully will break or help break the shield of whoever's in front, or at the very least go down in their health. So if they went at, say, Cursed Windeku, and you hit him for 3, they go from, say, 8 health to 5 health, well, your Grum is going to be able to hopefully clean that up. So, but let's get to and the last honorable mention, actually, is Phineas Rage. And he's going to be in a specific category that I would highly recommend, which is getting yourself cards with reach. And so you can get the Horny Toad, one of the most generic cards in the game, but if you can get that little 1 extra damage, or if you happen to be using Tarsa, 2 extra damage, just being able to attack before Grum and once again break the shield or weaken that tank, because when Grum starts hitting his Bloodlust, it is just insane. He just keeps getting more and more and more powerful, and he gains health, he gains shield, and once again, because of his Void Armor, he becomes a much harder character to kill. And so I believe having something with reach is really important. So the Radiated Brute, I think, would be the go-to if you have $3, but in a pinch, Horny Toad is absolutely useful. And then Phineas Rage, pie in the sky, once again, this one's more of an honorable mention, because if Grum doesn't work out, he can be a good secondary tank, but if Grum doesn't work out, then you probably lost the game. But anywho, we've gotten our reach characters. Once again, all these are relatively cheap to rent on there. Yeah, level 3 for 0.3 E7 DEC a day, and a Horny Toad's typically a card you'd say, I don't use that card very often. Yeah, well, when you use Grum, and when you use such an expensive card like Grum, you have to kind of scrape the bottom of the bin. Now, so the next cards we talk about, this is where we start to get into the fancy shenanigans. So right now we've talked about breaking shield before Grum attacks, which is pretty easy because he attacks at the 1 spot. But what the Goblin Shaman does is it's going to weaken everyone so they have 1 less health. So Grum is more likely to then get that final blow every time. Plus, he's going for the health. So hopefully other people are breaking armor for Grum. Maybe the Goblin Shaman is weakening him a little bit, and then Grum can come in for the finishing blow. Now, if you happen to be in the higher ranks, I do want to say that the Goblin Shaman becomes a must play with Grum when you get to level 5, because then at that point you also get the this ability we're going to talk about right here, the slow ability, which means all the enemies monsters are going to be getting one slower. And so let's just get to the Creeping Ooze here. Now this is a card that is going to be relatively expensive to buy. I think it's like $3, $4, $5, relatively expensive, but you can find it for cheap. But most people don't sell the one, so it's $3. It's a great card to invest in because you're going to use the snot out of it. Even at level 1, it slows everyone down, because that's where I want to start talking about summoners for a second. That's my biggest issue with Grum Fireblade, and why I lost so many matches over and over and over with Grum before I started to make some tweaks. And that's because he misses so often. If you're going against a blue deck, if he's going against someone with 4, 5, 6 speed, it's really hard for him to hit anything, and all that 11 cost value is then just sunk, and then hopefully your backline's doing everything. But once again, you paid so much for your front line, your backline's not doing anything, which is why the Creeping Ooze is, I believe, an essential card to pair with Grum, because it makes everybody just a little bit slower. And if you happen to be up at a level 5, you could be comboing that Creeping Ooze with that Goblin Shaman, and now everybody else on the team is too slower. Like, that is hot. Now, once again, I know there's probably a red card in here where once you get to like level 7, it does something crazy where it makes people go faster, but I'm more trying to focus on the lower levels here. The people that are in, say, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's probably going to be the level of their cards, because I imagine most people are in this range right here. Yeah, so Goblin Shaman, just a fantastic card to pair with Grum, and only a 3 cost. Now, we're going to get into 2 cards that are really fun to use, but they're both very dicey. And the first one is the Radiated Scorcher. Now, I want to put a caveat here. The Radiated Scorcher needs to be at least level 3. You have to be at level 3 or else this is just a useless card for the strategy. But if you happen to have him up to level 3, he gains the Shatter ability, and if he can get that shot off first, you have got yourself a game change right there. So this one is, and once again, I put this in the high risk, high reward category. So if that one's a little too dicey for you, and once again, Radiated Scorcher, very cheap card to rent as well. Very common card, level 3 for 0.16 DEC a day. Very cheap. We get the Exploding Rats, one of my personal favorite cards to do, because once again, and I would highly recommend at least having your rats to level 2, which, that's still dirt cheap. Like, you could get a level 2 for 54 cents, and then that puts them up to 5 speed, which means they're much more likely to get that hit off, especially if you have that Creeping Ooze hopefully back there. So, and that's going to do 2 damage to their armor, and it also could splash damage to the second spot, which you don't know what's going to help. That's going to help Grund in the future as well. So little things like that. I really like the Exploding Rats if you have the money. Once again, investing 4 in a risk like that can be a little bit dicey, though. So let's keep on going. Zenith Archer. Super simple one. It costs 2. You put her in there when you got $2 left sometimes. Well, this time you might actively want her in there because she's going to get in that little extra shot at the 2 spot before Grum. Hopefully it hits. Maybe it breaks that last little bit of shield there. You never know. But I do want to talk about summoners. I said I was going to talk about them a little bit. So your go-to is probably Tarsa. You're thinking, yeah, let's give him more health. Let's give him more attack. Tarsa works sometimes, but I had much more success, actually, with Pyre and Quid Yuff. And I go of, like, the reasonably cost one, because, yeah, if you looked at everything else, you could get some other ones that are going to be awesome. But these ones are reasonably priced. And Quid Yuff has the ability to break through the shield and then hit their body. So if they try and pull off anything cute, like in the front line where they got like a mini tank or like one of those 1-cost ones where it's just they're trying to hope you hit it twice so their backline can pull off shenanigans, he will smash through that and then be super powerful, and then, well, they're in a bit of trouble. Likewise, I've also had great success with Pyre, especially with the Creeping Ooze, because that brings his speed up to 2, and that brings other people's speed down 1, and that can be huge. Like, that is massive. The more hits he gets in, obviously, the much more likely you win the game. So while Tarsa, I think, is the knee-jerk for a lot of people, honestly, Pyre and Quid Yuff I had a lot more success with. So, Zenith Archer, once again, dirt cheap card to rent, like this one. Yeah, 0.24, 0.67, less than 1 DC a day to get a level 3. Continuing on, we have the Fire Elemental, where we are dipping more into a little bit more of the expensive price, but being able to go off at 5, getting that first shot off, and then potentially getting a second shot off, it's a fun card to play. Anytime you can use Sparkler damage, I always recommend it. It's just so much fun. But those are the 10 cards that I recommend you try out with Grum Fireblade. But I want to hear what you think. What are you thinking about Grum Fireblade? Do you think he's overpowered? Do you think he's underpowered? Do you think he's right about powered? What are some cards that I didn't mention that you love comboing with him? One that actually came to my mind, and I forgot to mention it though, is also the Dragon. If you have the Shield Dragon, that can really help a lot with those risky cards. You remember the one that had the shield break at level 3, the Cursed Scorcher? With a Dragon, you know, it's much more likely they're not going to get picked off. Same with the Mice as well. But let me know in the comments below, what cards are you loving with Grum Fireblade? And also in the comments below, let me know if there's a card you would like to see this series on. And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube. Bye-bye!